Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. One of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski, Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking quarterback carousel. We're going to be talking jocks and socias. We're going to be talking COVID and Blackhawks, and probably a lot more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season isn't going on right now, but that shouldn't stop you from heading on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, sign up for season tickets and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, we've got a bunch of places that we could start here, and I have a topic that I would like to start with, though, and feel free to differ, but I would like to talk about something that I've been wanting to do since last week when we didn't have a show. And I was like, man, I want to talk about this. And then since then, Adam Schefter has tweeted it out, and I think it could be a cool topic here.
All right, then, let's hear it.
And that would be the quarterback carousel, where as many as 18 teams could be changing quarterback this offseason.
Yeah, well, hey, we saw over this weekend a really big trade between the Lions and the Rams, so maybe that's kind of the first domino to fall here, because all the talks of quarterbacks going in different places have been rampant really since the season was wrapping up, before it was even the regular season was even complete. And you know, I think that was the first big domino to fall, and more could be happening here.
Yeah, so I started making a list of the teams and who's steady, who's not, and I started doing this before that trade. I mean, I knew Stafford. I mean, honestly, what kind of crossed my mind was you already had a bunch of big news. Stafford saying that he and the Lions both agreed to a trade. Deshaun Watson demanding a trade. You had Phillip Rivers retiring, Drew Brees probably retiring. So you're like, well, you know, that's a lot of dominoes to fall, and a lot of teams that are going to be in a quarterback situation. So, you know, that got me going through teams, and I'm like, all right, so Buffalo is set, Baltimore's set, Cincinnati's set, Cleveland's set, Kansas City, the Chargers, the Packers, the Vikings, Tampa, Arizona, and Seattle. Really the only teams where you're like, they're pretty set.
Yeah, and can we get one thing out of the way? Aaron Rodgers is not going anywhere.
I mean, if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire, is the only way he's going to go anywhere.
Right.
So he's not on my list of players that will move.
No, and I mean, there was the whole controversy over what he said in the press conference after the NFC Championship game. A lot of people's futures with this team are uncertain, including mine. I mean, I really think that was nothing more than just venting a little bit, some frustration. I mean, look, the Packers are going to have to make some big decisions. There's going to be some salary cap issues moving forward. They're going to have to make some adjustments. But come on, let's not pretend like Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere. I mean, first of all, if you're Aaron Rodgers, I can understand why you'd be a little bit frustrated. But, I mean, I don't see him wanting to go anywhere, and Green Bay's certainly not going to want to part with him. So let's just put that aside. I see no way he moves, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
I mean, if anything, I see this as Aaron Rodgers might get a new contract, an extension, or an amendment to the contract to pay him more, and that's the only thing I can see coming from this. But he's staying with the Packers. If anything, they might trade Jordan Love, but I don't even think they
What
need to
value
do that.
does he even have?
I mean, right now, I think I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. But you know, I'm sure that if you could get a first-round pick for him, and you say, "Hey, Aaron Rodgers, we're going to trade him, give another first-round pick for a weapon for you," suddenly I think Aaron Rodgers is happy again.
Oh yeah, and I think it was a lot of just sourness after losing. I mean, you lost you were down a lot. You almost came back, and then there were some controversial decisions, and that was really your golden chance to get back to the Super Bowl, and you didn't get it. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to be thinking much about the future in detail right then and there.
And I just want to point out for the record is the reason, if you're going to point to one thing that made the Packers lose that game, it was not going for the touchdown and kicking the field goal at the end of the game when your offense was rolling and your team as a whole scores like a touchdown 80% of the time from where you are, if not more, and kicking a field goal. It was not the penalty because, hate to break it to you, is sure, it's debatable whether that call was a pass interference or not. I don't think it was a pass interference, but it was 100% at least a holding call, which is a first down anyway, and that's all that mattered is the first down. The first down runs out the clock and they win. It had nothing to do with the yardage. Essentially, the difference between a holding and a pass interference is the yardage involved, and the yardage was an irrelevant point. So it was 100% a hold because the defender had the offensive guy's jersey so stretched out, and you had it on film. You could freeze frame and be like, "Look at this stretched out jersey from being pulled by the defender." It's sad that Packer fans are upset about that. They should be upset about their coach going for the field goal instead of the touchdown.
Well, I mean, there were multiple spots in that game where the Packers should have come up and they didn't. I mean, let's look at Tom Brady for a sec. In the first half, he was playing like the GOAT. In the second half, he threw 3 interceptions.
In a row.
In a row.
3 straight possessions.
And how many points did they score off that?
I don't know.
But it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough.
Should have gotten a lot more. I mean, that right there was a big factor. And then, like you said, not going for it on fourth down. Everyone and their mother was watching that and saying, "What is Matt LaFleur doing?" And Aaron Rodgers clearly wasn't happy about the decision. And you could also say, too, why didn't he run for it on third down? Because we saw he had a wide open lane. Would he have gotten there? I don't know. It would have been close. But if you run for it on third down instead of trying to force it, then your fourth down is probably at least looking like a 4th and 3, a 4th and 2 maybe if you don't get the touchdown. So those 2 calls in a row, Rodgers not running for it and then kicking the field goal, that right there I think was the big factor right there, right then and there. And yeah, the penalty, do I think it's ticky-tacky? Yes. But if you looked at the angles, there was clearly a hold there. And like you said, all that matters is that it was a first down. That's really all that matters. If you want to argue that reffing was inconsistent, I can't argue with that. But, unfortunately, that's how a lot of these games go. But I just think at the end of the day, the Packers Tampa Bay was trying to hand them the NFC Championship on a silver platter, handing it to them. When they'd taken complete control of the game, when they were imploding, I thought, okay, the Packers are 100% winning this game. And they didn't take it. I mean, that's just, at the end of the day, that's what happened.
And even if they didn't call a penalty on that, the odds are that what do the Packers? They have to score a touchdown. They have under a minute left with no timeouts. That it's low chance they're going to get a touchdown anyway.
There's no guarantee you win even with that call or not.
Yeah. But, back to our topic is, you've got a ton of teams that are looking to upgrade quarterback. Sure, Miami has Tua, but you don't think that they would rather have somebody that is more polished already and Tua has shown some good things, but shown some bad things too. We don't know what he's going to be at this point. So I'm sure Miami would like to have a sure thing. You've got the Jets have Sam Darnold. Do they want to upgrade over Sam Darnold? The Raiders have Derek Carr. We've already seen Gruden wanting to upgrade over Derek Carr. I think it's not as bad as the Rams situation where they just needed to get rid of Goff and upgrade. But if the Raiders see an opportunity that won't cost them the bank to upgrade over Derek Carr, they're going to take it. The Broncos have Drew Lock. Of course, they're going to want to upgrade. The Titans have Ryan Tannehill. I think they're okay with him. The Colts don't have a quarterback on their roster, I don't think.
No, they don't. And, a lot of people, including some of my friends who are Colts fans, they were really hoping that they'd be in on the Matt Stafford sweepstakes. And I thought that Matt Stafford would have been a good fit there.
Yeah, and they just, that Stafford trade was, they gave up a lot. So, if I was the Colts, of course I wouldn't. Part of the reason... So, essentially, if you didn't follow along, the Lions agreed to trade Matt Stafford to the Rams, took back Jared Goff, but got a third-rounder this year from the Rams, and then their first-rounder the next 2 seasons. And it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but the reason it was a lot is because they took that Jared Goff contract off their hands.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, a similar thing with the Blackhawks when they wanted to get rid of Brian Bickle, they had to sweeten the deal by putting Tavo into the trade to dump his salary. And that's kind of what this was. The 2 first-rounders and the third-rounder. Part of that was for Stafford, and part of that was to take the contract of Goff. And honestly, if you think about it, the way an NFL draft value is a draft pick this year is, roughly worth the next round the year after. So a first rounder next year is like a second rounder this year. Kind of the thought process of historically of the trade. So and the Rams, you figure with that defense that they have and adding Matt Stafford on the offense, they're probably going to go fairly deep into the playoffs at least. So these are looking to be first-round picks that come in the 20s or higher. So they're almost like early second-rounders. So these picks, you give up a lot, but it's. I think somebody could have put together a package of less picks that was still more palatable to the Lions. But I'm a little shocked that the Colts weren't more aggressive to get him.
Yeah, I am too. Like I said, I just thought he would have been a good fit there. Even going into this offseason, I'm like, I wonder if the Colts will make a run at Stafford, even before they confirmed he was being traded.
Yeah, so the Colts don't have a quarterback. Phillip Rivers retired. Jacoby Brissett is a free agent.
Do they want Nick Foles? They want to take Nick Foles off our hands?
The Texans have a Deshaun Watson situation on their hands. The Jags have Gardner Minshew, who they clearly is going to be upgraded soon. Washington football team has Alex Smith, who, you could ride with him, but you probably want to upgrade. The Giants are a weird situation. They have Daniel Jones. Are they married to him, or are they I mean, I sort of see him like a bit like a not as bad as Mitch Trubisky, but a Mitch Trubisky type situation where he's a guy that they're like, well, do we want to commit starter money to him when he's due his contract, or do we move on from him? And
I really don't know what to think yet of him. I really don't.
I don't either, and part of it is they've had a bad team around him.
Right.
And it's hard to gauge a quarterback, but part of it is if the quarterback is bad, your team's going to be bad. And he's had some injuries. It's tough to say. So the New York Giants could be in for an upgrade. In Dallas, Dak Prescott is a free agent. In Philadelphia, what's the old saying? When you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So you've got Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts had one good game where he came back and won, but really he's been kind of terrible.
I still think Carson Wentz is moving on from there.
The problem is his contract is they're already a team in financial straits. Can they afford that dead money that he's going to be on the books with him?
Well, that is a problem. I feel like Carson Wentz is a talented guy. I think he'll do better if he's not in Philly. But then again, you get a new head coach, maybe things will change. But I'm not convinced Carson Wentz is as bad as he was last year. I'm just not.
No, I'm neither. I mean, we saw him be really good. So I think that's in him. I wouldn't be surprised though if he winds up with the Colts.
I wouldn't either. My first thought was Matt Stafford. Second, I'm like Carson Wentz.
But I mean, I don't know if Carson Wentz they're going to move on from him in Philly. I think they got rid of Joc Pederson to keep Carson Wentz.
It could be. That could be.
So who knows what's going there? Seattle with Russell Wilson, that's fine. I had Jared Goff and the Rams as a position that they were definitely looking to upgrade. I said it wasn't quite the Derek Carr situation, but it was one where they were definitely looking to upgrade. The Cardinals have Kyler Murray. I think they're set there. Mm-hmm. The 49ers are in the same boat as the Rams and the Raiders, where they would like to upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo, but they might not be able to. Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers. They're set. The Bears have Nick Foles and Tyler Bray. They're definitely looking to upgrade.
Boy.
Kirk Cousins and the Vikings are married, so he's there. The Lions, they had Stafford, but they're going to move on, and so they were left with Chase Daniel as their quarterback, so they were looking to upgrade, which Goff is not an upgrade over that many people, but he's definitely an upgrade over Chase Daniel.
That and the Lions are kind of in a rebuild mode, so
yeah.
If you're looking for a bridge quarterback, Goff isn't the worst.
He's just an expensive guy.
He's expensive, yeah, but if you're looking at a bridge, I mean, we had Mike Glennon as our initial bridge. I'd rather have Jared Goff than Mike Glennon as a bridge. Let's just say that.
That's true. The Saints, I don't know what's going on with them. As it stands, we don't know if Drew Brees is retiring or not.
I think he's done.
I think so too. But until he says he's done, he's not done. So you have.
But don't they have a bunch of cap issues too?
They've got stupid cap issues. I mean, potentially upward of $100 million over the cap.
Yeah,
depending on what the final cap number is, that's real bad.
Yeah.
So the Saints, they could be okay with Brees and Taysom Hill if Brees comes back. If Brees doesn't come back, then the only quarterback they have on the roster is Taysom Hill, which obviously is not the situation you want to be in.
Just run every time.
Bucks have Brady, they're fine. The Panthers have Bridgewater. Put that in the 49ers, Rams, Raiders situation where, sure, you would like to upgrade, but if you need to go on with Teddy Bridgewater, you do.
You think they draft somebody and just let Bridgewater start
next
year?
I think they draft somebody and trade Bridgewater.
Okay.
That's what I think. And then the Falcons have Matt Ryan, and I think he is gone probably either before the draft or on draft night. I can't see them. But so those are the teams that are the situation. And here's the quarterbacks that are available, or that might be available. So Alex Smith could be traded or cut. Matt Stafford is on the block, which now he's not. He's been traded. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a free agent. Jameis Winston is a free agent. Cam Newton is a free agent. Andy Dalton, Tyrod Taylor, Mitchell Trubisky, Jacoby Brissett, all free agents. Deshaun Watson is demanding a trade. Matt Ryan and Teddy Bridgewater are very likely candidates for trades. And then A.J. McCarron is a free agent. Jimmy Garoppolo, one of the Philly quarterbacks, Jordan Love, Marcus Mariota, Sam Darnold are all trade candidates. And then you look as probably top 40 pick quarterbacks. You have Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Kyle Trask, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson. So you have actually a lot of quarterbacks here. And I mean, I don't really care to go through and guess, who's going to wind up where. But the Bears need to figure something out, and this is a year to probably the best year to have musical quarterbacks, to need a quarterback for the Bears, because there's a lot of options.
Yeah, there are. And there's a lot of rumors flying around. And, of course, until Deshaun Watson is traded, the Bears are going to come up in those conversations. I still don't think there is a great chance that Deshaun Watson is coming here. In fact, I'd say it's second to none. I can't say it's 100% not going to happen, but I just don't see it. I really just don't see it.
Yeah, I can't see what package the Bears would put together for them to be able to get Deshaun Watson, unless it was something stupid like that Kevin Costner movie Draft Day, where he's like, your next 3 rounds of quarterbacks, or 3 rounds of first round picks, and the Bears are mortgaging their future to get one guy, which, I mean, honestly, I don't think the Bears' next 3 first round picks would even do it, honestly.
Somebody mentioned, and I can't remember who it was or where it was, or even if it makes any sense, but somebody mentioned, you have some draft picks, and then you throw in a guy like Roquan Smith in the deal to kind of even things out a little bit, I guess.
The issue, though, is unlike other sports where current players are valued, look at some of the players that are traded, other than absolute, top tier wide receiver, top tier cornerback, and quarterback. Most other positions are undervalued. So Roquan Smith is, I mean, honestly, they're going to look at him probably as a second round pick in the trade, not like this is worth a top 10 pick here. That's the thing, is in the NFL, draft picks are so highly valued.
More than anything. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. So, I mean, you could be like, yeah, we'll throw in Kyle Fuller and Roquan Smith, but is that going to move the bar that much in the trade favor? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to ask you this, and I'm not even sure this would even be enough. I'm just hypothetical. The Texans are saying they want Roquan Smith, Kyle Fuller, and a 2021 first-round pick for Deshaun Watson.
Yes, you make that trade.
Would you do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would too.
Absolutely. Roquan Smith is a real good player. You can find another inside linebacker. We've gone 100 years, and you know how many good inside linebackers we have had?
Many.
We've had the best. We've had Dick Butkus, we've had Mike Singletary, we've had Brian Urlacher, now we've got Roquan Smith. We are a linebacker organization, but we don't have a single Hall of Fame quarterback.
Unless you count Sid Luckman.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Probably because they won championships, not because he was that good.
The game was different back then. The game was very different back then.
Yeah, okay, we don't have a Hall of Fame. We don't even have a real Pro Bowl quarterback since we could watch football on TV in color.
Yeah, seriously.
Seriously. We don't. Mitch made a Pro Bowl, but not a real Pro Bowl. He was an alternate. We've not figured out the quarterback situation.
If Mitch put up those same numbers in a year they went like 7-9 or 8-8, I'm not sure he gets that Pro Bowl nod.
No, he doesn't. So, you can get a cornerback. You can get another inside linebacker.
Exactly, they're replaceable. As good as they are, they're replaceable.
And then one first round pick. I would in a heartbeat. I would fly to Houston and hug that trade out.
Yeah. Now, I don't think that trade is realistic at all.
No.
I'm just saying. If the Texans were to come to Ryan Pace and bring that offer, heck, I'll even sweeten it a little bit. If they said, all right, Roquan Smith, Kyle Fuller, 2021 first rounder, 2022 second rounder.
Absolutely.
If that were the case, I would say, if you don't say yes, I will dump a mug of pee all over your face.
It honestly is when teams look to fleece another team, they call Ryan Pace.
Yeah, they do.
They call Ryan Pace, and then they go about their day. And he is so aggressive, and look at how aggressive he's been when he's looked at this team. We're in the framework of I want them to be better now, and I want them to be better in the future. And he has been hyper aggressive by moving picks to move up to get the guy he wants. Now imagine what he's going to do when his job is on the line. Do you think he's going to care about the future?
No.
I don't think so. Which is dumb, because even if he doesn't get fired, if he doesn't get fired for, he gets one more year of saving grace, if trading 4 first rounders for Deshaun Watson is going to get him fired a year or two down the road anyway.
Yeah. It's like you might as well go all out at this point. However long their contracts are, because we don't know.
So, you look and if anybody's going to overpay, it's going to be the Bears. But without offering first round picks for 4 years, I don't see the Bears getting Deshaun Watson. And here's the thing too, is Deshaun Watson has a full no trade clause. So if they're going to trade him, he gets to dictate where he goes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's already annoyed that the Bears, especially Ryan Pace, didn't even talk to him before the draft.
Yeah, I think there's other places he'd rather go than here.
Absolutely. And the thing is I have it noted, I don't think he gets traded. I think he's there. They don't have to trade him.
They don't have to trade him. That's very true. That's the thing. They don't have to. He can ask for a trade all day long, but they are not forced to.
And if you look at it, like in the NFL, you don't have to trade anybody. In the NBA, you sort of do, because it's a star-driven league, and you have to market yourself to stars, and stars sell each other on their organization. And if your organization is not good to stars, then stars don't go to your organization. And it's and you basically have to sell yourself every day. So if a player wants a trade, well, you give it to him to sell your organization. NFL is not so much like that, but in this one instance, the team on paper has all of the power here. They don't have to do anything. And their GM comes from the Patriots, which they don't value, player rights per se. So I don't think they will, but I think that is a bad look on the team. Is they're not gonna get big name free agents. They're just not, because who's gonna want to go there when you have ownership that's been called racist? Old man McNair definitely was. Was that Bob McNair? The guy who owned the team that he died, he was definitely racist. Said a bunch of racist things. The son, who knows how far he falls from the tree, and then you have one of the biggest stars of the league not happy to be there, and you not accommodating him when you're already in a rebuild mode. Like, that's the thing. If they were a team that was, we could win this year, and winning makes everything better, and you gamble that, if we win with him, he'll change his tune about being here. We'll help him, pad him with some players, blah, blah, blah. But this is a team that's on the decline. They're a bad team. And
it's an absolute dumpster fire there. It's not even fun.
If I was general manager or ownership, I would be like, you know what? Let's take the King's ransom, trade him, make him happy, profess our love publicly for him, and say, you know what? We wanted, although we didn't have any reason to, we wanted to make him happy, and use this to jumpstart our rebuild. That's what I would do.
Yeah. No, I hear you loud and clear. And hey, you know what? They got Lovie Smith now. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, yeah. Lovie Smith is their defensive coordinator. So,
jeez.
The cover 2 doesn't work in NFL anymore.
No, it does not.
So, who knows what we're going to see there. That defense is going to be atrocious. But, when we go back to the Bears, if I'm the Bears, I'm not going to mortgage, as much as I would love to have a Deshaun Watson. I would, I would not mortgage the farm to get him. You got to give up too much, plus pay him a bunch of money. If I'm the Bears, first of all, I go, let me throw a bunch of money at Dak Prescott.
Can they even do that?
He's an unrestricted free agent. So
right, but they just, you got cap issues.
You've got cap issues. You can, the NFL is weird. Like, you look, the Saints are $100 million over, and they're going to figure it out. There's always ways to figure it out. Usually it involves kicking the can down the road. But if you could bring in a Dak Prescott, makes your team a whole lot better. I would throw money at him. But you're not going to get him. I think Dallas will either match that or franchise tag him.
I don't see him not going back to Dallas.
My next move would be Jameis Winston, probably. But honestly, when Drew Brees was hurt, they played Taysom Hill. And I think that was a little bit of a coy thing, is because if Jameis Winston looked good, they would showcase him like they did with Teddy Bridgewater. And I think the plan is that Drew Brees, if he retires, Jameis Winston is going to be their next starting quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Winston. We know that he can throw for a ton of yards. We also know he throws a ton of picks. But yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one because you see the pros and cons to both that option.
The thing is, Mitch Trubisky can't throw for a ton of yards and still throws for a lot of picks.
Yes.
Nick
Yes.
Nick Foles didn't throw for a ton of yards and still threw a bunch of picks. So like at least have a guy that throws a ton of yards and then hope that your offensive system is good enough that you help him out. So he would be high on my list. Matt Ryan I wouldn't because you're gonna have to trade for him and he makes a lot of money.
And he's older.
Teddy Bridgewater would be interesting, but you're going to have to trade for him. I don't know what you're going to have to pay for him.
I like Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't like him that much to trade a lot for him and to rely on him to be your 16-game starting quarterback. See, if he was the type of guy you could bring in via free agency, I'd be a bit more interested in Teddy Bridgewater. I was actually pretty in on Teddy Bridgewater last year before he signed with the Panthers, but I don't think the appropriate move right now is trading for Teddy Bridgewater. I just don't think – I think he's a good, solid enough guy. I just don't think he's worth trading for to be your solution right now.
Unless they draft somebody. And, I mean, the thing is, I don't think he makes that much money where if they do draft somebody, they can't have both. So you would have to pry him away. I don't think you're going to dump a Teddy Bridgewater. Whereas – Jimmy Garoppolo, like they're gonna have to dump him if they bring in a better quarterback, a quarterback upgrade,
right?
Because he makes a lot of money. So Tyrod Taylor is a guy that's interesting on my list. He was the starter in Buffalo until they drafted Josh Allen, and you put him in there. He was the starter with the Chargers until he got injured, and then they had Herbert. So he is definitely a bridge quarterback. You're going to have to draft somebody.
Right.
He's a bridge. But if they do draft somebody, I would rather have Tyrod Taylor than Nick Foles. I think Cam Newton is not going to be the guy that you want for this team.
His arm is done. He's still athletic. He could still move, but I just think his arm is done.
The other name, I mean, I would still, if they cut Alex Smith, I would be calling Alex Smith as a bridge guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I know he's, after that leg injury, is probably not the same. But if you're looking at a guy who could be a good bridge, I do like the idea of Alex Smith. I've always said that Alex Smith, like in his prime, would be perfect for this team. So, yeah, we'll see what Washington does with that.
And then Ryan Fitzpatrick is another name that I would be interested in for the Bears. He's a guy who I mean, it's clear he can win you games. Like, not just manage you, he can win you games. But he can also lose you games. You got to rein him in a little bit. But
it's on off.
He can make every throw. And he's not afraid.
Which is something that the Bears have never had. Someone who's not afraid and someone who can throw.
So, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick would be a guy that I would consider. Again, he would be a bridge if you went outside of a typical first-round pick quarterback. If you decided to draft somebody that you're going to have to groom a little bit. And then the other name would be Sam Darnold, but I think you're going to have to trade for him.
Oh, no. I don't want Sam Darnold.
I mean, I don't either, but I wonder how much of that is playing on that god-awful team. And
I don't know either. That's too much of a risk, in my opinion, because we don't know.
So I mean, he's definitely an option, but Steelers, I'm probably going to cross them off the list because it seems like Ben Roethlisberger is willing to take a pay cut to come back. So he's probably going to
And why on earth would we want old Ben Roethlisberger?
No, I'm just saying is that the Steelers are going to be a team that's not looking to upgrade.
Oh, I see. Because I was going to say, no.
It's just not adding a team to or a quarterback to the pool. It's just removing a team from, looking to upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, honestly, I think the Texans keep Deshaun Watson, and then that leaves. I think a lot of these teams are going to upgrade via the draft. Is looking at who's ahead of the Bears in the draft, and there's a lot of teams that are going to go. They're going to go quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
There's 6 quarterbacks that I'm okay with taking. And I'm not in love with all of them, but I'm just saying as far as the top grades, and one of them's going number 1 to Jacksonville. I'm assuming they're gonna take a quarterback with the Jets, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I don't think they're gonna ride with Sam Darnold.
I don't think so either.
The Dolphins are not going to take one. Atlanta at 4 is probably going to take a quarterback. So that means...
build for the future.
Yeah, so probably 3 of the top 4 teams are taking a quarterback. Bengals, Eagles, not. Detroit's a wild card. Are they going to take a quarterback, or are they going to ride with Goff?
I think they'll be looking at a quarterback eventually. I'm just not sure if it's going to be this draft. I feel like they're going to ride with Goff for now, but we'll see. We'll see. Either way, I think the Lions' long-term future is not going to have Jared Goff in it. I just think he's going to be a bridge for a few years at least.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean, the Detroit's a wild card because they could. I mean, if they could look at it as, all right, do we take our quarterback here? But I think they're going to bet that they're going to go worse and then probably take a quarterback higher than 7th. But they're an option to take a quarterback. Carolina is an option to take a quarterback. Denver probably does take a quarterback.
I think they need to.
The Giants at 11 could take quarterback. San Francisco at 12 could take quarterback. New England at 15 could take quarterback. Las Vegas at 17 could take a quarterback. Washington at 19 could take a quarterback. And that leaves the Bears. So you have, and who's to say Indianapolis, the 1 pick behind the Bears, doesn't trade up for a quarterback. So there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 teams in front of you that I could easily see taking a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be, I think, you know who your first few are going to be, and then after that, there's going to be other teams looking for quarterbacks, and I just think by the time you get to the Bears, any desirable ones, at least ones that you think will be something, will be gone by then.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't gone through and looked at all the film, but I mean, Mac Jones is a smart quarterback. Can learn the system. I don't know if he's going to be an end-all be-all great quarterback, but I think he's a smart quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is obviously the darling of this class. I really like Trey Lance. I think he's got a lot of upside. Big, powerful arm. I think he's a Patrick Mahomes type guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he's coming from a small school. Big potential to be a bust. He's the same school as Carson Wentz. They have the same ugly uniforms. There's Kyle Trask and Justin Fields, Zach Wilson from BYU. One of those guys could be there for the Bears. But the Bears are in a tough position because they don't have a ton of money to throw at somebody. Most of these guys that are desirable ones are gonna come with trade. You have to trade them and pay them, and they're not in a good enough position to be able to guarantee they could get one of the top 6 quarterbacks. Do they trade up to try to get one? I think that's gonna depend a little bit on I guess how the draft plays out. If the Lions jump in and take a quarterback, and you have 4 quarterbacks off the board in the first 7 picks, you're probably shit out of luck. But
yeah,
if the Jets stick with Darnold, Atlanta decides to ride another year with Matt Ryan, Detroit and Carolina stay with their quarterback, and only 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10, suddenly you go, all right, yeah, I might still need to move up a little bit, but I can get one of these top 6 guys and not have to trade too much. I don't know. That's kind of why I like the idea of a Jameis Winston or a Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, Jameis Winston is a guy that you could just say, hey, we don't need to draft somebody. He's young enough where if he works out, he's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. And if he's young enough where if he works out, then you could ride with him for the future. Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be cheap enough where if you draft somebody, all right, you shove him off as a backup quarterback, and if you need to start him, then you start him. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of why I lean to those two. You're not mortgaging the future, and they could still win you games now. They're both
No, I hear you totally.
They're both upgrades over Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
And Nick Foles.
Yes. They're an upgrade over anything we have.
And it's funny because I started looking at this and I honestly felt like, what was that movie, A Beautiful Mind? Where he's got all the strings connecting everything, and I'm like,
yeah.
And that's kind of how I felt putting this all together. And I'm like, well, if this guy goes here, then that's going to set the ball in motion, and then this could happen. And honestly, I'm like, you know what? There are way too many variables here to even come close. I had a few predictions. I ultimately said Deshaun Watson's going to stay. Goff is. I predicted that that the Lions would or Stafford would end up with the Rams, and Goff would go to the I had that on there because I knew that they were in the mix. So I was like, if they do, they're going to have to throw in Jared Goff. The Patriots, they're gonna upgrade because right now they have their quarterback is Jared Stidham.
Ooh.
Stidham. That's exactly who. And so I don't think they trade for a Deshaun Watson, but and I don't think they bring back Cam Newton. I was like, they were my dark horse for getting Matt Stafford.
Yeah, no, I could see that.
I don't know what they do. I mean, maybe they bring back Jacoby Brissett.
That's not going to be good enough for them, though.
I mean, they rode with Cam Newton this year.
Yeah, look where that got him.
True. But it's not like there's somebody of Tom Brady's caliber they can bring in.
Well, no, there's nobody of Tom Brady's Tom Brady.
Maybe they draft somebody. I mean, they draft 15th. They could very well draft somebody.
Do they trade up?
I mean, they've got draft capital up the yin yang.
Yeah, so I'd say why not?
2021 Patriots. So they have a first rounder, a second rounder, a third rounder, 3 fourth rounders. They have a first, second, and third, 3 fourths, a fifth, 2 sixths, and a seventh.
Well, I think if they wanted to make something work, I'm not saying they will. I just think maybe it's something they consider. I don't know.
So, I mean, they very well could trade up and secure one of those guys, and that might be the way they go. I don't know. It's a tough position. This is the reason why. I mean, there's 2 main reasons that I was like, Ryan Pace has to go. One is we had to promote a guy probably 2 levels up to be defensive coordinator because they couldn't bring in a big name. Because who's going to want to go when the very likelihood is that the head coach and the general manager get fired next year? And you're going do you want to move somewhere, move your family to a job that you're probably going to get fired from, let go from because your head coach got fired? It's not what I want to do.
No, I wouldn't either.
And the other one is you have a GM that has taken 3 big swings at the quarterback position and whiffed on them all. I mean,
that's an understatement.
Absolute whiff. So why are you going to give him arguably, I would say the Mitch Trubisky pick was probably the biggest swing, but this is probably the second biggest swing he's going to take. Bigger than Nick Foles, bigger than Mike Glennon. And why are you going to give him a 4th swing at it?
Well, ask that to McCaskey and Ted Phillips.
Because they communicate real well.
Yeah, and there's a great culture. Even though it's not a winning culture, it's a good culture.
I mean,
remember that.
They have pizza parties, so it's good.
And they provide styrofoam cups to put the soda in.
And Matt Nagy brings the butterscotch pudding snacks.
Ted Phillips brings a bowl of M&Ms and says, "Have at it."
He just brings unwrapped dinner mints in a big bowl that people have been reaching their hand in. And you're just like, I don't want pee-pee mints.
Hey, man, I went out of my way to get these for you. Now you're going to eat them and enjoy them.
I just think back is like when I was a kid, that was the norm, man. I mean, you'd go to a restaurant and there would be a big bowl of those like after dinner mints, and they would be unwrapped just in a bowl, and you reached your hand in, and you're like, how many people went to the bathroom and didn't wash their hands, or have gone all day, ate their meal, and then came out and then dipped their hand in there.
Ew.
And I ate them. I mean, it was the 80s.
Every episode, we have to have a gross out segment, don't we?
Well, it's apparently my life. And I look back at it, I'm like, what in the world? Why didn't my parents stop me? Why were they like, go ahead, eat the pee-pee mints, it's good.
Well, there's no way that's returning now.
No, COVID, but like that hasn't been a thing in a while. Now they have, sometimes you see those same mints, but they're individually shrink wrapped.
God, that's so disgusting.
The bowl of pee-pee mints, man.
See, in restaurants like I'd go to, they were either wrapped or like it was in one of those. They're like caged bingo things where you tip it and they like come out one by one, like it's a giant plastic thing, but you're not sticking your hand in it.
Yeah, but the thing is, this was when I was a kid, so this was the 80s. 80s, there were no rules. Like, it was just, whatever, do what you want. I mean, you grew up in an era where your parents put you in a car seat with a seat belt, and I grew up in an era where, you rode in the back of the station wagon without any sort of restraint.
While eating pee-pee mints. That is so disgusting.
So, yeah, I mean, basically, what sums it up is I see this situation as Ryan Pace He's gonna bring us all a big bowl of pee-pee mints that we gotta choose from for quarterback. He's like, here's a big bowl of pee-pee quarterbacks. Pick one of them, and don't be grossed out by him.
And if you don't want to look, you could always look the other way and reach your hand in.
Ted Phillips hasn't washed his hands in 6 months, and he definitely has been picking at these all day.
Oh God, that's gross.
He's been licking his fingers after eating Rico beans, and he's and
What the fuck, man?
he's been licking sauce off his fingers and dipping in the pee-pee mints.
It is so disgusting.
But I mean, honestly, we've got. I'm not overly excited about any of the quarterbacks. I mean, maybe some of the draft picks I could live with. I mean, Justin Fields did well in college. I don't know what he's going to be in the pros. I haven't watched enough of Kyle Trask or Zach Wilson. Mac Jones, I think, could be a guy you could win with. Trey Lance is my guy. Well, Trevor Lawrence is gone. There's no chance of getting him.
No.
Even you have a less likelihood of getting Trevor Lawrence than you do Deshaun Watson. So Trey Lance is my guy. I like him. I think he's going to do well. The Packers could throw a monkey wrench in everything and make Jordan Love available. And I think a lot of people would Jimmy Garoppolo him and suddenly make him out to be the next superstar because he's been sitting behind Aaron Rodgers.
For a year.
Yeah.
For 1 year.
Yes. I mean, look at Jimmy Garoppolo. He sat behind Tom Brady and people anointed him and they gave it.
Yeah.
They traded for him and made him the highest paid quarterback in the league. And
Yep.
And then he Jimmy Garoppolo'd everybody.
That was silly from the beginning. It really was.
Well, look at how many Bears beat writers beat the Bears up for not trading for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm glad they didn't do.
Is you know what? As much as sometimes the beat writers are right, is beat writers when they're wrong have a real short memory and don't ever forget how they were wrong. And
unless you're John Lackey, he's got a long memory.
John Lackey's got a long memory. So, I mean, honestly, I see the Bears winding up with one of these veteran journeymen and probably taking a flyer on a second-tier quarterback in the draft.
I could see it. I could definitely see it.
And that's where we're at. And that's a total Bears move, is everyone's excited about a backup quarterback who's going to suck.
We're excited about pee-pee mints.
We are. So if you guys are listening, is definitely be ready for a bowl full of pee-pee quarterbacks for next year.
Now imagine if your pee-pee mints, instead of being in a traditional bowl, were in the Marty Havlat crock pot. So you are reaching in pee-pee mints while it's going...
I love it when two gross jokes go together. They fit together.
I know. Ooh, pee-pee mints.
And you pull it out and you're getting ready to put it in your mouth and suddenly it slips out of your hands and you hear it hit something and you look down and it goes ba-doom!
Ew.
And you shake it off and eat it.
Let's just put all our gross out jokes into one. That's a great idea.
Some Buffalo Bills fan is listening to this going
You came after the Buffalo Bills fan stopped by.
So yeah, that's my Bears talk. Is be ready. Life is a bowl of pee-pee mints. Get ready to pick a quarterback from it.
Yep.
So I have a feeling I know where you're going to want to go next.
Well, I have several areas, but the Cubs are making moves. They're not amazing moves, but they're moves.
Yeah, so let's go right to the Cubs. So the Cubs added Joc Pederson on essentially a 1-year, $7 million deal. And do you know what? I'm okay with this.
I am too.
He is a cheaper upgrade to, if a probable upgrade, at worst, stalemate from Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, here's the thing. Even just a few days ago, if you'd have told me that the Cubs would have gotten a guy like Joc Pederson, I would have called you crazy, because it really looked like they weren't going to do a damn thing. But then, all of a sudden, I wake up the other day, and I hear that we got Joc Pederson. And I'm thinking, oh, interesting. And then some people ask, well, then why get rid of Kyle Schwarber? Well, I wrote about it for Cubby's Crib, and there's some very interesting stats I want to share with you. Now, first of all, the stat lines are almost identical to the very digit.
I mean, I'm looking
almost.
Yeah, if you look at the projections for next year, these are the comparable slash lines. 240, 335, 485 versus 243, 345, 500, and WRC plus of 117 to 120. Like, those are the same slash lines.
Yeah, I mean, look at the career numbers. 230, 336, 480 for Schwarber, 230, 336, 470 for Peterson. They're very, very identical in those overall numbers. You go a little further and you dig into some other numbers and you say, okay, 816 OPS for Schwarber, 806 for Peterson, 221 home runs for Schwarber, 130 for Peterson. I think it's fair to say Schwarber's got the better home run stroke. But you go on and you say, okay, well, Schwarber's got a 28% K rate in his career. Peterson has 24. They both strike out more than you'd like, but Peterson does make more contact. And if you want to get into the biggest differences now, you just kind of look at the type of outfielder they are. Peterson is quicker, more agile, and versatile. He could play all over the outfield. Schwarber, he's either left field or DH. So look at it this way. You are getting a very similar player, but more versatile, more athletic, and a much better base runner.
Joc Pederson can play 4 positions. 5 if you end up with a DH in the National League this year. He could DH. He can play all 3 outfield positions. Obviously, you don't want him at center field for extended periods of time, but if you've got a right-handed pitcher out there and you're trying to work a couple of guys in there, you could put him in center field. And he's played first base before.
Yes, he has.
So
he has.
In that scenario where there is a DH, Kyle Schwarber can play 2 versus 5. And if you don't have the DH, it's 4 versus 1. That's a lot more versatility you have. And part of this is going to go into the WAR. Is if you look, Joc Pederson has been a 3+ WAR player in 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Is how many years has Kyle Schwarber been a 3+ WAR player?
Once.
I didn't look, but I'm imagining at most once.
I think. Let me look at Fangraphs real quick, because the career WAR numbers are Peterson 13, Schwarber 9.6 in their entire career. But let me see his highest, because yeah, I mean, when you're a better fielder and you're a similar hitter, who's going to be the higher WAR player? It's going to be the one who's a better fielder, obviously. And if you actually look at some of the fielding stats for Peterson, his top fielding years are pretty damn good. You're talking like double-digit defensive runs saved type player. Okay, yeah, Schwarber has been above 3 WAR once, and that was 2018. And in 2019, he was a 2.6, which is kind of surprising because he seemed a bit more productive that year, at least with the home run ball. But I also see that he was a bit better metrically defensively in 2018, so that probably explains it, because offensively his offensive WAR was better in 19 than 18, but the difference of defensive WAR is pretty noticeable from 18 and 19. But yes, his WAR by season, 2015, 1.8, 69 games. 2016 is -0.1, but he played in 2 games. That doesn't count. 129 games in 2017, 1.7 WAR, 2018, 3.2, 2019, 2.6, last year, 0.4. So, I mean, you're looking at a guy who's projecting next year, if you look at depth chart projection, 2.3. If you're looking at steamer projection, 2.4. If you're looking at zip projection, 2.0. So we're really looking at a 2.5 win player next year in Kyle Schwarber.
And you look at Joc Pederson, and you look at years where he's played at least 100 games. I'm going to read you his WAR. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons. 3.1 WAR, 3.5, 0.6, 2.7, and 3.0.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's averaging roughly 2.7 WAR for 5 from, the vast majority of his career. I mean, and he's $3 million a year cheaper.
I think the versatility is really going to help the team out because you might have some moving parts. And look, let's say you keep Chris Bryant, at least to start the season. There's a lot of people talking about him being in left field or right field, depending on the day, and having Bodie play third base. And if that's the case, you could say, well, you could slide in Peterson in a number of spots. Okay, so let's say there's a righty on the mound. You want to have Jason Hayward and Joc Pederson in the lineup, and Ian Happ's going to be your starting center fielder. I mean, that's pretty easy. Hayward in right, Happ in center, Joc Pederson in left. If you want to play Joc Pederson in right and give Hayward a day off and play Bryant in left, you can do that too. If Ian Happ gets a day off and you want to put Joc Pederson in center, you can do that too. It's kind of nice to have because you can kind of mix and match a bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does give you versatility. You're not. I mean, defensive wise, you look at Joc Pederson and he's a lot like oh my God, why am I blanking on the bum that they let go? They did DFA'd him, or they didn't. You
have to be a lot more specific.
Albert Almora. Albert Almora was a plus defender. You could slot him in any of the 3 outfield positions, except he just can't hit. Joc Pederson can play all 3. You can have a lot of flexibility, and he can hit a little bit. And the guy's career postseason, he's a murderer. He murders right-handers in the postseason.
Yeah, look at last year. And that's another thing, too. Kyle Schwarber is known for having great postseasons, but we're really talking 2015 and the 2016 World Series. Since then, his postseason performances have not been there at all. But Peterson has had much more recent success in the postseason. So take that for what it's worth, I guess. And, this isn't... I don't want to sound like I'm saying Joc Pederson is miles away better than Kyle Schwarber, because I think they both have their ups and downs. I want to read you the last slide of the article I wrote the other day, and I gave kind of pros and cons to each, or like who has the edge. And I'm going to give you the categories I gave, and I want to hear your opinion on each so we could kind of compare and contrast. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
So, hitting for average, I say it's a wash because it's going to be pretty much the same. What do you think?
Yes, I would agree.
Getting on base, I'm going to give that to Schwarber. He's better at drawing walks.
I would agree.
Power, I'm going to give that to Schwarber as well. I think he's got the better power stroke, and his career high is better than Joc's career high. Granted, Joc Pederson is now not going to be playing in NL West ballparks most of the time, so we'll see what the difference is there. But I still think Schwarber, he's got the ability to hit those titanic blasts, so I'm going to give the edge to him.
I would agree.
Speed, that's obviously Peterson.
Yes, absolutely.
Contact, Peterson.
Absolutely.
Defense, Peterson.
Absolutely.
So you compare and contrast there. You have your pros, you have your cons for each. They're very similar players. In some aspects, they're not. But all in all, you could be getting a pretty good value here at $7 million. And some may ask, why would you let Kyle Schwarber go? Well, I just think that maybe the market wasn't where they expected it to be for a player like Schwarber/Peterson. So now they're thinking of kind of getting on this a little bit. And since they're spending money now, maybe Tom Ricketts got in on that whole GameStop thing.
I think honestly, it's they looked at it as, you know what, the core that we had needed to be shaken up because we kept trying let's give it another year, It was not working. And he was the first domino to move on.
And that makes sense. But here's what bothers me. You're doing stuff to kind of shake things up now, right? With this move, right? You're kind of revamping.
Yes.
But you just traded your best pitcher for lottery tickets.
Absolutely, you're right. And I think they're banking on that they can patchwork a pitching staff and hope beyond hope that young pitchers will, given the opportunity, will rise to the occasion, and the fact that they, no matter what they did, they were not going to be able to compete for a World Series because they're not going to be able to go through Dodgers or Padres. And I think they were thinking, well, you know what? We can at least compete in this division, even with cutting payroll. I think that's the thinking, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of stepping back while trying to catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, so it's, I think that's what they're trying to do is be competitive in this division, so it doesn't look like they're tanking, but they know that the division is the division is terrible. So, you know, why rise to the occasion and give people hope that you're good when you're really not good? And just quickly pulling up Joc Pederson's postseason stats. 2016 NLDS, 1.044 OPS. 2017 World Series, 1.344 OPS. 2018 NLDS, 905 OPS. 2019 NLDS, 953 OPS. 2020 NLCS, 977 OPS. 2020 World Series, 1.20 OPS.
That's pretty good.
So the guy can rake in the postseason. I think it's just you're shaking it up a little bit. You're like, hey, you know what? We're not winning with Kyle Schwarber. We like the guy, but clearly it's time to change something up here. And if we got a similar guy that's just better defender, a little more versatile, coming from a winning organization, maybe that's we see better production out of him.
And, you know, I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm not so worried. If there's one area I'm not really worried about, it's the starting lineup. Because look at last year. Look at the main guys. They all had, like, career worst years. And they all had career worst years in a weird 60-game pandemic season. And I just don't think they're all going to be that bad again. I think Baez is going to bounce back. I think Bryant is going to bounce back. I think Rizzo is going to bounce back. And you add those three guys who I think will bounce back or at least be better. You add in Wilson Contreras. You add in Joc Pederson. Say what you want about Jason Hayward, man, but his production the past 2 years has been a hell lot better than it was the first few years. So you add that to the mix, and then you add in Ian Happ, who looks like he might be finding something. And, you know, all of a sudden you got a pretty good lineup there. The issue is starting pitching, and I think the issue, too, is depth. Because if you look at the Cubs bench right now, it's the Phillip Ervins and Matt Duffys of the world, and that's not great. And you're not going to get Tommy La Stella back because he just signed somewhere. So maybe you think, okay, well, is this room for somebody to come up from Iowa? Maybe one of our prospects eventually. If they had some hitting depth and maybe, let's say this. Let's say they had not traded Yu Darvish, and they still had him, and you still had Victor Caratini, and you had two all-star caliber pitchers at the top. You have a backup catcher who could switch hit, which adds a little more depth. I think that could make a significant difference, but the fact of the matter is you're just trying to patch something together. And they brought in a few pitchers, and they might be bringing a few more, but you're bringing in a lot of reclamation projects right now. I mean, you are bringing in a lot of, let's see if they can turn this around. Because you could catch lightning in a bottle, or it could just be an epic mess with the starting rotation.
You look at the Cubs bench. We clearly don't know who's going to make the roster, but here, David Bodie, Austin Romine, Phillip Ervin, Matthew Duffy, Ildemaro Vargas, Hernan Perez, Max Schrock. These are the benches. You're right. So you suddenly look at the starting lineup and you're like, all right, we still have Bryant, we still have Rizzo. For now, we still have Wilson Contreras. We still have the starting lineup. You're like, okay, we could win with that. The starting rotation, that's something else to be desired. But it's once you go to the bench, you're gonna see just dog shit tacos. And the minute you trade Chris Bryant, or the minute that an Anthony Rizzo gets hurt, or you trade a Wilson Contreras, then you look at that starting lineup and you're like, all right, man, this is not a good team.
Yeah. You look at some of the guys they've brought in. They just brought in Trevor Williams yesterday, who was really good in 2018, but since then has really struggled. You brought in some guy Cole from the Twins, and you might look at a few more guys, and apparently they've been looking at our old friend Jake Arrieta again. The one I want to look at is Mike Foltynewicz, because I still think there might be something there. What I worry about Jake Arrieta, look, I'll always love Jake Arrieta, but he's clearly not the guy he once was. He's clearly a contact guy now. You see more changeups from him. He's battled injuries. I just don't know if there's much left in the tank there. I feel like a guy like Mike Foltynewicz has more upside, at least. And then they brought up Jeff Samardzija too, and oh boy, if you bring in Jeff Samardzija, to me he's just an innings eater.
Is he even a major league pitcher at this point?
Well, let's see how he did last year. He was with the Giants for, 4 years?
Something like that. And while you're looking that up, Jesse Rogers is reporting that Jake Arrieta return to the Cubs is doubtful because the Cubs want a less expensive option. What the heck could Jake Arrieta be asking for at this point?
Seriously. What? Unless they're saying too expensive for him, maybe he... I don't know. Okay, so Jeff Samardzija in 16.2 innings, 4 games last year, a 9.72 ERA. But in 2019, 3.52 ERA. Granted a 4.59 FIP, but a 1.12 or 1.11 WHIP, 2.4 base on ball per 9. So he was serviceable in 2019. Then he only played 10 games in 2018, was not very good. See, here's the thing with Jeff Samardzija is, as we've seen, even in his Cubs days, you weren't always sure what you were going to get from him year in, year out. He'd have a good year, then he'd have a mediocre year, then he'd have a bad year, then he'd have another mediocre year, then he'd have a pretty good year. The dude has had a really strange career overall. And if you look at his overall numbers in his career, you say he's a pretty average, maybe slightly above average pitcher. But he's older now. I don't really know how much he has at age 36, but I have that feeling he'll be pitching in the majors somewhere this year.
I'm just looking. So I'm seeing reports that Bauer is rumored to go to the Mets.
Didn't they just clear some money?
I mean, they cleared money when they lost $1 billion in the GameStop issue.
Well, yeah.
Well, actually, they lost $1.7 billion, but that's neither here nor there as far as I'm concerned. But if they do get Bauer, come the second half of the season, you know what that rotation is going to be? Bauer, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman, Carrasco.
Yeesh.
That's brutal, man.
On paper, it is.
That's true.
On paper, it is.
That is true. It is baseball.
Because I am gonna say this. I think Thor's got great stuff, but all those injuries, man, I don't know if he's gonna fully. I hope he does because I really like him, but we'll see. And I'm gonna say this about Trevor Bauer. Let's see how he pitches after that year last year. I mean, he had a fantastic year last year, but all I'm gonna say is, you look outside like 2 years, he's like average. You look at his career. Go on Baseball Reference and look at his career numbers. Like year by year.
Let me pull them up. Trevor Bauer Fangraphs. We'll scroll down. Start with 2014. 5-8, 8.41 Ks per 9, 3.53 walks per 9. 4.18 ERA, 1.4 WAR. Okay, nothing to write home about. 2015, 11-12, 8.69 Ks per 9, 4.04 walks per 9, 276 BABIP, 4.55 ERA, 4.33 FIP, 1.8 WAR. Again, nothing to write home about. 2016, 12-8. And that was on a World Series team. 12-8, 7.96 Ks per 9. So his strikeouts went down, but his walks went way down, 3.32. But his BABIP was up, 292. 4.26 ERA, 3.99 FIP, 2.6 WAR. Again, nothing super spectacular. 2017 was a good year. 17-9, 10 Ks per 9. Dropped his walks to 3.06. 4.19 ERA, 3.88 FIP, 2.8 WAR. So then 2018 at the Indians, 12-6. Ks went up again, and walks went down. 11.34, 2.93 walks and Ks. Then the ERA dropped to 2.21 and a 5.8. So that was a fantastic year.
Yes.
2019, he was 11-3, 10.69 Ks, 3.46 walks, 4.48 ERA, 4.34 FIP, 3.3 WAR. I think it was. I mean, you're right. He had one really pretty darn good season, and then a bunch of. Okay, seasons.
Nothing bad. I'm not saying
No.
he's bad. I'm just
Like,
saying a lot of his seasons are just they're solid at best. They're okay.
Yeah, none of these are. I mean, except for the one, none of these are like holy cow, but they were some solid seasons.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's lucky he's a free agent again, where he can really cash in on a great year. And I'm not saying he's going to be average going forward. I'm just saying that we'll see what happens when he gets a big payday. We'll see.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Joc Pederson, going back to him, is according to Matt Spiegel, that the White Sox offered him a 1-year, $10 million deal, and he turned them down early in free agency.
I did not know that. I was listening to Speegs talk about Peterson when I was working Friday, but I must have missed that part, unless he said it later. I wonder why. Maybe he thought he could get more,
I'm guessing he thought he could get more, and
yeah.
And he realized what the market was. And honestly, you look at the market, and it's COVID market. Teams really aren't spending a lot of money. I mean, certain teams are, but not a lot of teams are spending money. And I think he probably saw what the market was. I'm surprised that his representation, what his representation, they didn't tell him, hey, we're all anticipating that the middle class in baseball is not going to feast this year. We should take what we have and reevaluate. And he's still a young guy. He's 11 months older than Kyle Schwarber. He's 28. He's about 28, about to turn 29. Oh, he turns 28 in March.
Yeah, they're about the same.
Yeah, they're 11 months apart. So he turns 28 in March. So, I mean, if I was his representation, I would have told him jump at the chance to that $10 million with the White Sox, go to the playoffs with them, kill it, and then we'll sign a big contract next season. But I think that would have been huge for the White Sox.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'll take him on the north side. I definitely will.
Yeah, absolutely. The other big news is the stupid Cardinals traded a bucket of baseballs for Nolan Arenado.
As soon as I saw Cardinals agree to terms to trade with the Rockies for Arenado, I said right then and there, they're going to give up nothing for him because it's going to be a salary dump.
And
this is baseball.
And the Rockies,
this is what's happening.
Rockies threw in $50 million towards his salary. It wasn't even a full salary dump.
No. You knew it was going to be an absolute lopsided deal for the Cardinals. You knew it was going. The minute that happened, I said it's going to be for packing peanuts.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it was. And granted, is you look at the guy. He's a completely different hitter when he's not in Denver. And I mean, away from Coors Field, he's a 263, 322, 471 slash. That's his numbers. At Coors, he's 322, 376, 609.
It's a pretty significant difference.
His WRC plus difference is 128 versus 108.
Yeah, I mean, so far in his career, you're looking at an MVP caliber player versus a pretty typical average player. Now, I don't think that he is an average player. I think he is an above average player, and I think with the Cardinals he'll do well. I just, the one bit of comfort I have is that Busch Stadium is not exactly hitter's haven. It's not obviously like Petco Park or Wrigley Field when the wind's howling in on a cold day, but it's not Coors Field by any means. But what worries me is, it's like, well, you got Arenado and Goldschmidt facing our pitching staff. That might be a problem.
That's where I see it. And I mean, he's a Gold Glover, and those numbers, the slash numbers on the road, are not bad.
No, they're not. They're not bad. They're not bad.
It's just they're not special. So they're a good player, not a special player, and so we'll see what those numbers are. But I mean, even regardless, he's a very good defender.
The Cardinals got better regardless. It's just it's going to be a matter of how better they got. But either way, they did get better.
Now, do they bring back Yadi Molina?
I'm pretty sure they're going to.
I mean, they brought back Wainwright. And I thought I read that Wainwright and Yachty were going to try to go as a package deal wherever they went.
Well, I think I thought it was all but done that he was going to go back.
So I hate the Cardinals so much.
We couldn't even be happy about a legitimate move for 24 hours when that happened. That's what gets me.
Stupid Cardinals.
I agree.
What else do we have with baseball? The White Sox done anything? Oh yeah, they signed Carlos Rodon.
That was weird.
How often is it that they non-tender a player, a team non-tenders a player and then brings him back that same year?
Yeah, I don't hear much of that happening or remember much of that happening, but yeah, it happened. Because I actually thought for a while that he was a good candidate to come to the Cubs, because I know they were looking at him and they were like, well, we need another left-handed pitcher and he's available and maybe we want to take a flyer on him, but nope, he's going back to the Sox.
Yeah, was it $3 million?
1 year, $3 million. That sounds about right.
Yeah, one year, $3 million, according to Bob Nightingale. So the White Sox feel that he could compete for that fifth starter spot, and if he doesn't get it, I mean, he's $3 million. You can put him in the bullpen. You can make him a long reliever, like a middle relief. I mean, it's not a big number.
No, you're not throwing a lot of money at him.
But I still think the White Sox have plenty of room to move, and I think that Joc Pederson would have been a better signing for them. But yeah,
like I said, I'm going to be biased for a second. Say I'll take him on the north side, but I definitely agree he would have been a good fit on the south side.
Yeah. So.
Well, also, if you wanted to talk White Sox for a sec, I know that there was rumblings this week about Nelson Cruz, and then everyone is pretty much shooting that down, and that the Twins and Cruz are negotiating right now. I'm very split on the Nelson Cruz idea for the Sox, because on one hand, I'd say why not go for it. On the other hand, I could kind of see somewhat why you'd be a little apprehensive, because when you're 40 years old and you're aging, you can drop like a rock, and who is very similar to Nelson Cruz, who the Sox had last year career-wise?
Edwin Encarnacion.
Right. But, the thing is, it's not like you're prying him away from some NL team. You're prying him away from your biggest rival right now and someone who has absolutely crushed you. So I guess you could look at it as you pay him for 2 years, and if he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out, and at least he's not killing you on the other side. Because Nelson Cruz has just absolutely hammered the White Sox. So I think it would have been worth investing.
The White Sox have the money. The White Sox have a couple of holes to fill. I just think they need to step up and fill them. And maybe they're waiting for these Joc Pederson type deals to come where guys are going, the money's not where I thought it was going to be, and the White Sox swoop in and get them on the cheap, which would be a total White Sox move.
I could see that. I could see that because there are guys still out there. I've brought up Marcell Ozuna up many times. Now, I'm not sure if his price will ever come down to where the White Sox want, but there's I think there'd be a good fit for the White Sox and Marcell Ozuna.
I think so too. Especially if you put him at DH and doesn't have to play field. Man, I was watching some lowlights of his fielding. Oof, he's a bad fielder.
Do you remember that time when he tried to climb the wall and he just kind of squirmed a little bit and the ball landed on the warning track?
Yeah, well, yeah, he ran up the wall and the ball bounced in the dirt and then went into the stands. He tried to jump down and catch it and whiffed on it. He's bad. He's a bad outfielder, man.
But he can hit. He's a good hitter.
He's a very good hitter. He's a very good hitter.
I do think, though, that at the end there's going to be a team that offers him more, but, we'll see. But it seems like a lot of White Sox fans are, even though the team is in really good shape, I think White Sox fans, and I can understand why, might be a little frustrated with Jerry just not going completely all out when you have the absolute golden opportunity to go all out.
I mean, that's a Jerry move.
I mean, you made two very good moves. You brought in Liam Hendricks and you traded for Lance Lynn. I thought those were two very good moves. But you could go a step further.
I am not criticizing the moves the White Sox have made. I'm criticizing the moves that they have not made.
Right.
I think they have a good GM. I think he had a good plan. I just think he is a little bit handcuffed by a cheap, greedy owner.
I see Rick Hahn going into Jerry's office saying, "So, are you willing to free up a few more million for us? Are you willing to free up a few more million for us every few days?" And I have this feeling that they might make one more move after Jerry kind of gives in and the price kind of drops for some of these guys. So right now, a lot of people are saying the White Sox are done. The White Sox are done. I'm not going to 100% say they are. I wouldn't be surprised if they do surprise us before spring training. I'm just saying.
I mean, I don't think they make any splashes. I think they might add some platoon guys or some bench guys, some middle relief arm or something. I don't think they make any big splashes anymore. I think this is.
I'm not even necessarily saying a big splash, but something.
Yeah, who's even still available?
Well, I have Spot Track up. Let's take a look at who is available because the dominoes are starting to fall and people are going places. Okay, let's see. Yoenis Cespedes, Jake Arrieta, Jordan Zimmerman, Ryan Braun, Yadi Molina, but he's going back to the Cardinals. Sin-Soo Choo, Jeff Samardzija, Cole Hamels, Marcell Ozuna, Jake Odorizzi, Trevor Bauer, Justin Turner, Mike Leake, Mark Melancon, Nelson Cruz, Ian Kennedy, Jay Bruce, Josh Reddick, James Paxton, Brett Gardner, Edwin Encarnacion, David Robertson, Jackie Bradley Jr., Alex Colomé, Marwin Gonzalez, D. Gordon, Jed Lowry, Rec Pacello, Roberto Ozuna, Ken Giles, Julio Teheran, Anibal Sanchez, Jonathan Villar, Joaquim Soria, Mike Fires, Robinson Chirinos, Mike Foltynewicz, Shane Green, Howie Kendrick, though he retired, Jonathan Scope, C.J. Crone, Chase Anderson, Nomar Mazara, Colton Wong, Yusmeri Petit, Brett Anderson, Justin Wilson, Sergio Romo, Gio Gonzalez, Todd Frazier, Travis Shaw, Tyler Flowers, Jesse Chavez, Nick Markakis, Alex Gordon, who retired, Eric Thames, who's going back to Japan, I believe, and then just a bunch of other names. But, yeah, there you go.
Well, who's going to be the backup catcher?
Well, that's the biggest hole they have to fill.
I mean, they could bring back Tyler Flowers.
Do you want Tyler Flowers?
I mean, there's not a lot of options.
No.
Matt Wieters.
Yeah.
I mean, Wellington Castillo.
He was just brought in to a minor league non-roster invitee somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I think the Royals, I want to say. Let me look that up.
Yeah, I mean, those are really your options. Robinson Chirinos. Josh Fegley. Those are your. I think Tyler Flowers is probably your best option.
Jeff Mathis, Tony Walters, Eric Kratz, Rene Rivera, Caleb Joseph.
I mean, you could bring in another veteran second baseman.
There are some available.
I mean, Jason Kipnis, Colton Wong.
I don't know if Colton Wong would be a backup though.
That's true.
He wants this. He wants to start somewhere. And frankly, I think Jason Kipnis is kind of in the same ballpark. I think he wouldn't mind platooning, but I think they pretty much know that Madrigal is going to be the number one guy there. So, let's see. Second baseman, you got D. Gordon, Jed Lowry, Howie Kendrick retired, Jonathan Scope, Colton Wong, Joe Panik, Asdrubal Cabrera, Daniel Descalso, Brad Miller, Greg Garcia. You could bring back Ryan Goings, Mike Freeman, Logan Forsythe, Sean Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, you're really running out of real estate here. Right fielders.
Brock Holt.
Right field, you brought in Eaton. Puig would be the only other option. Maybe a Josh Reddick.
I wouldn't deal with Puig right now.
Marcell Ozuna you could bring in as a DH.
Tyler Naquin, Domingo Santana, Cameron Maben, John Jay.
Jonas Cespedes.
Remember when he was a star?
I do. When was the last time he even played?
Like 2 years ago.
Why is Matt Kemp still? How is he not 102 years? He's only 36 years old.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
It feels like he's been a player for 100 years.
It feels like he was almost 40 like 5 years ago.
I mean, in starters, I think I would like to see them add another starter.
I agree.
It's clear that they're not going to go for Bauer. There's a Jake Odorizzi available. Rick Porcello. I'm not touching Anibal Sanchez or Cole Hamels.
Nah, Cole Hamels was a great pitcher, but he's washed.
Yeah, I'm not touching Jake Arrieta or Rich Hill.
Let's see, Rick Porcello, how's he doing these days? 5.64 ERA in 12 games last year, 5.52 ERA in 2019, 4.28 in 2018. Remember, this guy won a Cy Young Award.
Yeah. It's funny, Chris Archer. Remember when everyone thought he was going to be a big pitcher?
And he was for a few years.
He's a free agent. 32
Yes,
years
he
old
is.
free agent. Should still be able to pitch, but
that was another guy linked to the Cubs.
That's true.
See, Chris Archer's the guy who will strike out like 10 guys, but he'll go only 5 innings and give up 4 runs.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at this list of starting pitchers, Odorizzi could be interesting. Porcello, maybe. Homer Bailey, nope. Anibal Sanchez, nope. What about Brett Anderson?
Nah.
I haven't. I'd have to pull up his numbers. It's sort of a
I
guessing
remember when
game.
he was a Cub, and that was disastrous.
Cole Hamels, nope.
Let's
Mike-
see. Brett Anderson last year, 4.21 ERA in 10 starts.
Meh. I mean, you're basically just looking for a number 5.
Oakland, he 3.89 ERA in 31 starts in 2019, a 4.57 FIP, a 1.31 WHIP. So, buy at your own risk, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're the Cubs, I mean, who would you rather take if you're gonna pick somebody up? Jeff Samardzija or Chris Archer?
Probably Chris Archer.
I mean, he's 4 years younger.
I just think his stuff is better.
I mean, I haven't even seen them be linked to him at all. I haven't seen anybody be linked to him, Chris Archer.
No, there hasn't been a lot of rumblings with him.
Remember when Julio Teheran was going to be a big name guy too?
Yeah,
He's
he had
only
some good years.
I mean, he's only 30 still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Should we talk Bulls and Blackhawks quickly?
Yeah, I just have one thing to say about the Bulls. I'm sorry about my optimism last week because since then it has been ugly.
I know. I feel like anytime we get optimistic, just life slaps us down. It's funny. Like, I guess, with Cubs and the Bears, like I really will dig into numbers and analytics and things like that. But in basketball, I just sort of watch. And,
Yeah, same.
And I don't dig into that stuff. And I was chatting with Doug Tonis, I don't know, maybe a week ago, maybe a little less, about potential Lonzo Ball trade. And somebody had tossed out, essentially either a Kobe White or a Lauri Markkanen for Alonzo Ball. And I was like, I would totally trade Lauri Markkanen for Lonzo Ball. Like I think the Bulls would be a good landing spot for Lonzo. And I was like, but I don't know if I would trade Kobe White. And Doug was like, I would totally trade Kobe White. And I was like, I just see him as a guy, if you bring in Alonzo, you can push Kobe White to the second unit and be another scoring option. And he's basically said, until Kobe White can get his true shooting percentage to 55%, he's trash. And I don't necessarily agree with the trash line, but I started looking at his numbers, and my God, is he a streaky shooter?
Mm-hmm.
And he puts up some bad numbers sometimes.
Yeah, he does. Very streaky.
So it's like, I'm like, this is a guy that you spent a number 7 pick on, and he's like a true shooting percentage. He's like 52%. When you look at like Markkanen, he's like 64, 65%. So you're like, man, it feels a lot like Kobe White needs to get through the progression that Zach LaVine went on, where he went from a volume scorer, a lot of shots to score points. Kobe needs to be more selective with his shots, and as a whole, this team needs to get to the free throw line more.
Mm-hmm.
Need to stop turning the ball over so much. Like they're scoring a lot. They just can't close these games out.
I mean, last night was unbelievable.
I think Alonzo Ball would be a great addition to this team, and I mean honestly, I think it would help the Bulls defensively quite a bit. I don't know if it's going to impact their scoring that much. I think it makes the ball movement work a lot better. Clearly either Markkanen or Kobe White is a better scorer right now than Lonzo Ball, but I think Lonzo Ball is going to be a much better basketball player in this system. It might even force Patrick Williams to be a more consistent scorer on the offensive end. I don't know, but as constructed, this team neither needs to grow up faster or maybe some changes need to be made.
Yeah, we'll see how the season goes. It's just they have lost some absolutely brutal games late. Just brutal.
Yeah. So
I mean, last night's loss was I'm going to say about that was kind of fluky. Like, he hits a 3, questionable jump ball, they get it back, and then they throw it up and they get the win. Like, that to me was a wee bit fluky, in my opinion.
I mean, but
unfortunately, it's been kind of a trend that they've lost games like this on multiple occasions.
That's the thing, is it's become a trend. It's been a theme. And,
right.
And,
they got to close out games better, there's no question.
And I'm anticipating this team will start to progress. I mean, they were a rudderless team for how many years now?
Yeah.
With poor systems, or last year just the offensive system was 6th grade, pick and roll, and it was essentially an incompetent boob running the organization. So you have a plan and you have a teacher. It's buying in and doing what you need to do. You're seeing some growing pains with Patrick Williams. You're seeing sometimes that looks confident, looks great, sometimes makes rookie mistakes, sometimes lacks confidence. But I still like him. Zach LaVine still looking great. Laurie looking better. But I still think you have a weird situation on your hands with him, what your contract situation is going to be. I don't want to end up overpaying him and kind of stick yourself.
Right.
I don't know. But I didn't see the whole last game. I have it on my DVR.
I just saw the last 5 minutes, honestly. So, of course, when I turn it on, that happens.
Of course.
Yep.
I need to start checking out. So the Bulls Outsiders with Big Dave, they moved their show since they've got COVID downsized from their TV show. They've moved it to Hot Mic. So they do the fourth quarter of the games and then they post-game wrap up.
It's cool that they're able to do it on Hot Mic.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know, the third man on their team is the official Twitter person of the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that when they announced it, I was like, that was crazy. I'm like, it makes sense. It's funny. And it's but you always wonder who is behind some of these good Twitter accounts.
Yeah, for sure.
Should we wrap this up quick with a little Blackhawks?
Yeah, I don't have much to say about that. I mean, with the COVID outs and just with the team, it's pretty much the Rockford Ice Hogs. I will say it's a small sample size still, but I like Lankinen. He's played well so far, and I got to give him a lot of credit because you can look at the past few games, even in the losses, you lost 2 overtime games to Nashville on the road. I mean, the fact that they got points in those games, they were all 1-goal games. I was expecting a lot worse. And they were able to get a nice 3-1 win today. They're still undefeated at home, so that's cool. But yeah, did they play Columbus at home or away the last game? I don't remember. I missed the game.
Yeah, I did. Me too. I don't remember. But
either way, they're not losing like 5-1 like they were early on. And I give some credit to Lankinen for playing very well.
So, Lankinen has been pretty good. I just don't understand. After he had 2 good games against the Red Wings, they followed it up, and they're like, let's throw Malcolm Subban in there.
Well, those were back-to-backs.
Still, I just, I don't know. I just want to see. I want to see them pick one goalie and ride with him. And I think
you're going to see Lankinen for the most part.
I think so, because it's not going to be Delia. So, the 2 goalies in Chicago should be Subban and Lankinen. Lankinen is clearly the guy that has the highest upside, and you want to see what you have in him. Because if he ends up being a guy you're like, oh man, you know what, maybe he's a pretty good goalie. Figure that out now, because we know Malcolm Subban is not. Malcolm Subban is not.
Yeah, Lankinen might be the one piece where you say, maybe he will be something long term, but you got to play him for the most part the rest of the year. You got to see what he can do outside a small sample size. Yeah, I know. I'm with you. Just play him for the most of the time and let Malcolm Subban be your backup. I think that's where you go the rest of the way.
And you're right with this COVID, the insane lineups that they have and the players that are in, you're just like, what the hell? Let's see, did they have tonight's line in there?
Someone was making their debut.
There was
Seems like someone's making their debut every night.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think of who even tweeted out what the. I don't remember, but the line is so crazy of guys that they have in there. You're like, who the hell am I watching?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, normally I get to know the roster, obviously, but this year I'm like, well, I don't know who half these guys are, but that Pew Suter guy had a nice hat trick the other day. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, so it's I mean, I don't know what this team has. It's not a good team. This is a bad team, but somehow they're hanging in there and staying competitive with, and I think you're seeing good goaltending. I mean, not elite goaltending, but Lankinen has provided some pretty decent goaltending. Those 2 goals in the loss to Columbus on Friday. They won tonight. So gave up 1 goal tonight. So you're seeing them, much better than in the first week of the season when they were giving up 5 goals a game. You've got a lot of young players. You got a lot of COVID relief players. I just don't. I mean, you're just getting gritty wins. It's not a lot of skill, guys. It's gritty wins.
Right. But that's all we can really. That's the most we can expect at this point.
Yeah. Shots on goal tonight, 36-33, so it's pretty close. high danger chances 9-9. Kevin Lankinen with a 970 save percentage so far, and he's given up two or fewer goals in 5 consecutive games. You had Suter with the hat trick, but he's been really quiet since then. He's on the second.
Had a goal tonight.
Yeah, he's been a second line with Kubalik and Strome, and then they moved him to the third line after that, and he gets a 4th goal of the season tonight. And then the first line was Philip Kurashev serving as the center, Matthias Janmark and Patrick Kane on the other sides of him. They got the opening goal of the game and the 3rd goal of the game. Reese Johnson became the 5th Blackhawk rookie to make his NHL debut this season. He played on the 4th line with Matthew Highmore and David Kampf. And he registered a team-high 7 hits in 10:56 of ice time. Duncan Keith had 6 shots on goal. So then the Blackhawks have 5 players in NHL COVID-19 protocol.
Yeah, things are going swimmingly, aren't they?
5 players in protocol, and they have Nylander, Doc, Seabrook, and Taves all in the MIA list. So,
great.
I don't know. This team it's hockey. Honestly, I'm glad it's back. I love hockey.
Me too.
But it's not like I'm expecting anything with this team. Nobody should. They're not a good team. They're a ragtag team, and you hope once you sift through this team at the end of the year, you sift through and you go, okay, who on this team is worth bringing back, who is not, and hopefully you start building off of that. You've got a lot of young defensemen that you're high on. Seems like maybe you figured out your goalie situation without paying a boatload for Lankinen. Does Taves come back? Do we know what hell is going on with him?
No idea.
He's sitting at home tinkering. He's like, Marty Havlat's got a crock pot. I can do a crock pot. I need a Jonathan Taves crock pot.
Just no pee-pee mints in it.
That's kind of been the Blackhawks too. Is they're like, hey, you guys want a bowl of pee-pee mints?
We were out of players. We need to reach into the bowl of pee-pee mints.
I just want to Photoshop a picture of Stan Bowman with a stupid shit-eating grin on his face with a bowl of pee-pee mints.
Oh, I can arrange that.
That should be your next painting. It's just a bowl of pee-pee mints.
A nice oil painting. Yes, I will waste the canvas and plenty of oil paints on a bowl of pee-pee mints.
Yeah, if anybody out here wants to commission that, go for that. Please go for that.
Yeah, let me know.
I mean, not a joke. Alex is a very good painter. I've seen some of his things. He's very good. So if you do want pee-pee mints, I'm sure he could nail it.
You want a nice thing for your wall, living room, kitchen, whatever. I'll hook you up with a pee-pee mint painting.
You guys want something in your man cave that's a little unique? Commemorate the 2020 Chicago sports with a bowl of pee-pee mint painting.
'Cause why not?
Nothing like having a pee-pee mint to wash down my Ryan Pace Matt Nagy pizza.
Beautiful.
You got anything else you want to add?
No, I think I've said my PP piece.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn app, Google Play, Spotify. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down, I wanna...